Let's start off. If you could just give us a bit of a background on yourself and the company so that people can learn a bit about you.
Okay, so I've had the business now 17 years. Was doing it 3 or 4 years before for someone else, and then sort of realised I can do it myself. So I opened up at the age of 22. We started off in a serviced office, moved into our office here in Edgware 6 months after that. We had a chance meeting with someone. They're like, "Do you want our front office?" And over the years, we've just sort of grown and grown and grown. Now we've got the whole building here. We've got a second office in Bushy. Both the main offices are now market leaders in their areas. And then 2 years ago, we opened the Hub, which is a self-employed model. So we were one of the first sort of English companies to sort of jump on that model. Now there's about 10,000 people doing it, but we were one of the first, and sort of we did it to expand our business. There's been quite a lot of learnings with that side of the business, and I think for us it was one of the reasons we sort of came over to you guys. Was as we expanded, we needed to have products, and we've looked at pretty much every one of our tech products about not just does it work for us now, but does it work for us in the future.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, that's a pretty phenomenal background you got. But in terms of the products that you were just talking about, one of the reasons that I wanted to specifically get you on this call was we spoke, I don't know, maybe like 18 months ago, something like that, first of all. And I felt like you'd worked quite hard to find lots of different products to try and pull things together for the company. I don't know, but I kind of got the impression at the time like you maybe felt like you had everything kind of covered. And then over that period of time of using things, you have revisited Lifecycle and gone ahead. So what kind of happened over that period for you?
I think it works from certain things as well. Like you guys had only just launched, and yeah, in all honesty, when something launches new, I don't want to be, the hamster that tries it. Yeah. So, I sort of looked and watched and saw the progression of your business as well. But as it's not as bad as it used to be. I remember years ago, I used to go to all the conferences and you come back and you just spent like your whole year's profit on 20 different tech. It doesn't seem to be so many now, but there's so many different angles. Even when you talk about social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then you've got people talking about TikTok, and there's so much, and you can't cover everything. So I think you have to look at what's important. And I think to every estate agent, stock's the most important thing. And I use the word all the time, and I think my staff are bored of hearing it, but consistency. And sometimes you go and do a valuation, you can give someone the most amazing pitch, but if you called them in 6 months, they would have no clue who you are. And unless people talk about, I'm brilliant on a valuation, that's great, but unless you get that valuation there and then, and that's about their timing, not necessarily about you, it's about the follow-up. And if you don't get that follow-up right, and I've got some amazing people that work for me, but even then sometimes we'll go through every so often, we'll go back over all our old vows, and there'll be someone from 6 months ago who they just completely forgotten to stay in contact with. And we needed something that made sure, if we had forgotten, that the system's working for us at the same time. Yeah. So, we were using an email marketing system. We were using our systems as well to send people email every so often. The social media stuff, yes, there's going to be impromptu stuff we do, but it needed to be a bit more of a plan and a bit more of a routine. And it was driving me mad, sort of logging into this one, and then you forget that code. And now with the auto generators, it's like there are so many codes to remember. We just needed to have a system where if we followed the process, it would start to work.
Awesome. And I mean, it's so true. I was talking to an agent just a couple of days ago. I think they've got about 5 offices, and they were saying they're doing about 150 valuations a month at the moment. And I sound biased because obviously I'm on the call talking to him about our system, but I just find it mind-blowing that he's doing 150 proposals and none of them are going into any sort of tracking or nurture system. They're literally just going in one door and out the other door, unless, like you say, they instruct pretty much within the first week or two.
Yeah, it's quite dangerous. And, I look at our dashboard sometimes, although we've only been using you a little while and, there's still bits which we don't understand. But, you look at that and there's, a massive number of stuff we're nurturing. It's actually quite scary.
Yeah.
And I even said to one of my guys last week, I said, how many valves do you get? And we've probably, in our Edgware office, we probably do anywhere from 12 to 15 a week on average. And Bushy is normally like 8 to 10.
Yeah.
So it's a, a good number. That's 2 offices. And I said, so one last week, our manager was, and so I said to Michael, how many valves? I mean, like 8 valves, 9 valves. I go, what was the value? And he's like, it's 150 grand. And I'm like, have you chased them all up? He's like, oh, I've been so busy. Yeah. And luckily, naturally, now everything goes on Lifecycle. So even if he's busy, they're still getting that nurture and those calls. Yeah. And obviously as well with yourselves, you're linked with Valpal. So we're doing a lot of our business now, especially with our social stuff, is getting people to our Valpal tool. Mm-hmm. And then again, following in a system that then those people are going to be hearing from us consistently, and you just can't, how much you try it with trying to do it yourself, you get really busy and you forget about these things. And, it's so important to just keep in contact.
Yeah. So as someone that's one of the first people, or possibly even the first person to be doing the self-employed model over here, in the time that you've been using Lifecycle, are there things that give you insights that you perhaps wouldn't have had otherwise?
Not yet, because we've only been using you guys a few months, so we haven't moved everyone onto it. Yeah. So the self-employed model is a strange one. I believe I'm quite honest about the whole model. And you get people who come in, who join, and then you never hear from them again. Like literally, they join, they do the induction, and they do the Zoom calls, and they just sort of go a bit AWOL. And that's the problem with that model, is a lot of people are dipping their toe in the water.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we want.
I think, sorry to jump in there. I think I say something similar, although obviously you've got much more experience with it than I have, but a lot of people think it's this sort of ticket to riches, and I'm kind of saying, actually it's really complicated to try and get loads of people to follow your guidelines and your brand and your procedures and all of that sort of stuff, as anyone who's watched the film The Founder would know.
Yeah, it's actually, it drives me mad. I've had my own business for 17 years. I've got a very clear model of, if you do A, you will get B, and if you do C, D will follow. But the amount of people who just don't follow it, and it's just, you want to pick them up, throw them out the window sometimes. It's so infuriating, because I'm not saying I've got a golden ticket and a golden answer, and my golden answer and my golden ticket are bloody hard work. I say to everyone, you've got to work twice as hard to earn half as much in the first year. Yeah. But most people aren't prepared to do what's necessary to live a life which is, amazing. And that's a reality. And I think Elliot, who's head of our recruitment, I think he was so shocked that when he first joined us, he thought he'd got great people who've had great experience, and that was, key to success. And it's not. Most people were scared to put their face in front of the camera. Most people, when they could, were scared to knock on the door. Most people don't want to phone a friend who they see they've got a property on the market and go, can I help? And that's all the line is. And saying to clients they've known for years, have you got anything else? And it's just the basics. And, that people aren't as good as they think they are. I think people sort of come from, big corporates, and they think they're going to put a video out and go, here I am, and people are going to flock to them. But actually, a brand is very comforting. There's a reason brands exist. We sort of have the best of it, where we get our guys to be in front of the brand, but the brand's still there to support them. But when you go and, knock on someone's door and go, I used to work for Connells, for example, and now I'm doing completely on my own with, I'm working from home. There is that little bit of distrust to people. The models, us and everyone, and, everyone's killing themselves to build this model. And in all honesty, I don't think anyone's got it right yet, including us. But it's going to be it's going to be another 2 or 3 years before people are starting to get it right. But you've got to have that energy and desire, and that, getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning like you normally do and work till 6:30, not working for an hour and a half. Yes, maybe in 2 years you will be able to, but no one started a business to work part-time.
No, that's right. Absolutely. I remember, it reminds me of a conversation I had with another agent who I've known for, 20 years. He previously had worked in big corporates. He'd worked, in the Halifax in the 80s and the 90s. He'd run regions at Spice of Heart. And when he set up his own business, he was determined to come away from all of that and have something that was more personable and small and independent. And probably took him a little while before he started to actually realize, actually, those companies have done really well to set up all those systems. That's the machine that got what that you need behind the scenes in order to just make it look like it's so simple at the front end.
Yeah, I think people take for granted how much a company gives you. You know, the reality is here in Edgware, you know, of our 15 valuations a week, 12 are probably generated through the business, and 3 are probably generated through the guys doing what they should be doing.
Definitely.
Whereas sometimes I go down to the self-employed hub and we'll go and pick up in a day like 15, 20 valuations from everyone getting on the phone and hustling. But it's almost like estate agents don't hustle because they don't need to, because their brands are so strong and the marketing being done for them, which they don't even realize is so strong, like what you guys do for us. But it's all part of a bigger clog.
So is there, for anyone out there who's, I don't know, maybe they've looked at Lifecycle, or maybe they've had even a discovery call, maybe they've had a bad experience with a previous supplier, what are the main differences that you found between working with Iceberg and Lifecycle as opposed to maybe some of the other things that you've tried?
Fine. I'll tell you what I was very surprised with. Obviously, we spoke initially, which I was quite impressed that, you know, you're still going out there and doing that initial presentation, and obviously the passion you've got for it. Like I actually, when we did our Zoom chat, someone was going to an appointment, someone was driving me, and they were listening, and they were like almost crashed the car over some of it. You know, some of it's mind-boggling, but it, you know, I think what people, and I'm the most impatient person going, you can't sign up to Lifecycle, you know, and it's going to go bang in a day. It's a long-term investment. You know, it's, as you say, it's a nurture journey, you know. But like, we've started putting on all our old vows, which is, you know, we're just putting on 10 a day from say 4 or 5 of us. So we want to get all of our old stock on. But I was very impressed that we've called about 100 times to ask small questions, and there's always someone who will spend time with us, you know, because we're a big company, there's a lot of people, and some people have picked it up really quickly. And even I spoke to the guys yesterday and said, right, I think we need to have another chat with Lifecycle to see where we go next on our journey. But it's also one of those things you've got to engage with. You can't just leave it and just hope that it works. You've got to make sure that you're putting things in. If you don't put that someone's changed to that they've actually gone on with another agent or they've sold, it's not going to work. But you've just got to make it part of your daily ritual and your daily routine. But I tell you, when we've had people who are on the market with someone else, and we've got an email saying they're looking on our website, and we've given them a call, it's mind blowing. Like, they're like, because however much people know about tech, they don't really know about tech. And when you called them 20 minutes later and said, just phone to see how you are, people are, oh, it's almost like it's meant to be. I've got to give you my property, you know, and little features like that, you know, are massive.
Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. All right, so last question then. If you had a good friend who was an agent, obviously in a non-competing area, who's, you know, using lots of different tools, what would your kind of advice be?
I think, you know, you look at something, you know, you guys aren't the cheapest out there, but once you actually take away that and that and that and that, and in your time, actually, you're probably better off with, you know, with a more expensive option you normally are in life, you know. And I think people just need to evaluate exactly the time, and people have got to look long term. People who look short term, you know, aren't the ones that succeed in business. And, you know, you're not going to join Lifecycle and tomorrow you might get lucky, you get instruction because of it, but it's more about the people who are in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And the reality is, especially in today's market, there's a lot of people who are getting online valuations, people who are getting valuations but just aren't ready to move, you know. And this will really show its worth and its value to me in months to come, and I can already see that. And I think you've got to, as a business owner, look at the long term and not just be obsessed with the short term.
Yeah, it's a great point, because so often on a call, an agent will say to me, well, Mark, look, just tell me what the return on investment is going to be. And I say, well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on your business. Like, Lifecycle just does a lot of heavy lifting. It makes sure you stay in touch with people.
You can only be.
It doesn't suddenly turn you from a bad agent into a great agent. That has to be done by you.
and that's the thing, you know, you can have all the best tech in the world. If you don't, you know, go and present yourself properly on evaluation, you know, you don't do the basics well, then you could have the best tech in the world and you still do no business. So, you know, if you can't come and jump into this if you've got other issues in your business.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going out on 10 valuations, you're only getting one, Lifecycle's not going to make that much better. Yeah. But if you've got a good business, this will just help you to go to that next level.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Okay. Are you looking forward to the Lifecycle 2 functions arriving?
Yeah, like I think, well, you talk about a hub. So we are looking at the possibility of bringing all of our hub members onto Lifecycle 2.
Wow.
And using it as their CRM and actually having a separate CRM for them.
Wow.
Because it's a slightly different mentality that they're not, you know, if you've gone into that model, you want something working for you behind the scenes. So it's something we're talking about very strongly at the moment, about getting all the hub teams onto Lifecycle, because I think it will help with the way they work, because people who go self-employed aren't necessarily your traditional agents, but ones who are a little bit more entrepreneurial and a little bit more forward thinking. And obviously I think that would fit quite well into Lifecycle 2.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. All right, Steve. Thanks very much for your time. Hope any agents listening found that useful. Obviously, if someone does want to reach out to you for a bit more of a kind of unbiased, off the record chat, is that okay if they do that? How would they do that if they needed to?
Yeah, I'm sure they can find me on socials, or you can give them my number. You know, find me on my website. We're everywhere.
Awesome. All right. Thanks very much, Steve.
My pleasure, Mark. Keep well.